today we're talking about teens' opinions on public speaking. So Teen Talk is a platform, I would say, that is live curated conversations by teens for teens on important topics. And today we're followed by two amazing panelists. We first have Charlie, who is 16 and a junior, who is studying to be a preschool teacher. And then we have Harini, who is 17 and a senior, who is studying psychiatry. And then, of course, we have me, your host, Alexander. I'm 16, and I'm studying to be a journalist. So let's start off the conversation pretty easy. What's your guys' history with public speaking?
Well, we're all in speech and debate, so we've all been doing this for a little bit, but I've been doing it since 6th grade, and at first I was really nervous, and it was horrifying, but I've been doing it for a while now, and it's now kind of just something I implement in my everyday life.
Yeah, it's my 5th year being involved with speech and debate, and this year I'm actually the co-captain of my school's speech and debate team. So I've moved from simply competing in different events at tournaments to trying to figure out how to make this experience more fun and enjoyable for everyone involved, regardless of their level of expertise.
So the newbies in the speech debate team, our novices, what do you see the biggest struggle they have with public speaking?
Honestly, I think that they're just scared they're going to be bad at it, but also scared that other people will see them being bad at it. And it's just that fear of like starting something new and like, what if it never works out, or like, what if all these people judge me for it? And so it's kind of just a mix of all of these things.
Yeah, I think the fear of judgment is definitely a huge reason why so many people are scared of speech and debate, scared to try public speaking, and scared to share their opinions with a large group of people.
Do you think the judgment from like peers or even judges or adults is why a lot of teens are diverging from public speaking?
I think it definitely plays a role in it. I mean, I know when I first started that, like, I refuse, like, even now, I refuse to, like, perform or compete or, like, talk in front of, like, people that I'm going to see every single day. Because I'm like, well, if they see me being bad, they're going to judge me and all this stuff. So I feel like definitely as you're starting out, that is a huge thing because you're not yet comfortable with it. So
yeah, I think the other thing is that some people feel as though it's like a natural talent that you're either born with or you aren't. But in reality, I feel like public speaking is a skill that everyone can get better at. Like, even if you're really introverted like I was when I was younger, I think we can all really build the skill and grow.
I love how you keep saying skill and it's not a talent. A lot of people think that public speaking is a talent because, you know, we're naturally good at it, you know, totally, and because we get the points for it. Do you guys think public speaking is a talent or is it a skill?
it's definitely more of a skill. You know, I was not good at it at all when I first started.
I doubt that, but
you know, but like I was horrified. We'd have to do like a 4-minute speech or something like that. I'd do like a 1-minute speech, and I'm just like, I wouldn't be able to like form words at all. But now it's definitely a lot better. I can get those things out, and it's just a lot easier as you continue to do it. And a skill, it's something that you're going to need in life and for the rest of your life. But a talent, it's just something that you want to do, because like if I want to get good at dancing, I can do that, and that's maybe important to me, but it's not a necessary thing in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was younger, I was really scared of being judged by my peers because English was my second language. I was like, what if I sound weird? What if I don't say things the right way? And I feel like that fear really made me feel like I couldn't get better at public speaking. It was just something that people who were really extroverted could do and do well. But that's something that I've really changed my mindset on as a senior in speech and debate.
So I heard two stunning things that you both said. Charlie, you touched on, correct me if I'm wrong, but your day-to-day life, how public speaking is used. What is a couple like instances that you would use public speaking in your day-to-day?
Well, it's not really just for like specifically like news informational things, like all these like intricate topics and stuff like that. In my own speech and debate class, I have a leadership role, and I teach these people how to do things. Even outside of that class, I'm constantly teaching people how to do things, how to like train people for my work. Literally just like customer service things too. You need public speaking for it, and it's something that's essential. And I think it's viewed so much as like speeches given at City Hall. It's not actually as like formal as people think it is, so it's definitely a more necessary skill than they think too.
And Tarina, you said that your first language wasn't English. Do you think that people who, like you, don't have English as their first language, do you think they're more deterred from public speaking?
Yeah, I think a huge, like, the way that public speaking is sort of perceived in like the media and like popular culture is like these big speeches given in front of like large audiences, and that seems really daunting. I was like, what if I don't do well in speech and debate, because it's so scary, like there's so many people out there judging me. And I think the language barrier when I was younger, it was something that also played into this fear as well.
So you keep saying fear. Do you think that public speaking is an irrational fear, or do you think it's completely, utterly rational?
I think it's completely a rational fear because of all this judgment. It's not, it's one of the most common fears that a lot of people have. It's more common than the fear of heights, the fear of roller coasters, the fear of drowning. And one of the reasons behind that fear is just the way we perceive public speaking. And it feels like the people who are really good at public speaking are naturally born with that skill, or the people who are really good at debating are really aggressive. And it seems like it's not a skill that you can like build upon and grow, when in reality it's the opposite.
Yeah, and excuse my debate brain, but I think like 75% of teens are scared of public speaking. And it's definitely a fear that most people have, so it's very rational and it shouldn't be viewed in a negative way. But I do think that there should be a step taken to help people get over that fear, because it's really important, especially because so many people have it.
So I thank you for bringing up statistic. There was a statistic done by the Stanley Association saying in 2021, after the year of COVID, that about 50% of students said that they have social anxiety. Do you think that COVID played a giant role into teens' public speaking abilities?
Yeah, I think it did, especially with social anxiety. We didn't have that face-to-face interaction with people. And so even through Zoom calls where they'd be like, you guys need to talk so you don't like get scared of talking to people, it still happened. And many people turned to social media. So I definitely think that it did hurt people's public speaking in a way, but also through social media, through being more connected with the internet through those times, I think that people had a bigger platform to speak out. It was just their decision to do so.
I feel like in some ways, virtual learning made it a little bit easier to speak up in front of your classmates. I feel like the screen provided a little bit of a buffer, like some social distance away from your audience, so it doesn't feel as scary and as nerve-wracking.
So you both mentioned screens in some sort of way. Do you think that social media is a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to speaking?
I think that is a very controversial thing that we still talk about over and over every single year. But it really depends what you're willing to do and what community you're in. Because I know people tell me they get most of their information on news and things going on in the world from my Instagram story, because I just love to inform people on things. And so it can be a good thing. It can be important in sharing this stuff and helping people through things. But it can be negative in the way that people have such different opinions, and that's seen as a bad thing. And also, misinformation spreads like crazy. But I think it just really depends on how you're willing to use it yourself.
Yeah. In a way, social media can sort of lock us in these echo chambers of like opinions. So if you're like speaking out publicly and everyone in your audience, if you know that they agree with you, it doesn't feel as scary. And the way you talk about things is going to be different than if your audience is filled with people who don't necessarily agree with you, who have completely different viewpoints. You might be way more hesitant to say things in a certain way. But it's also about listening to other people's opinions. That's the part about public speaking that we don't think about a lot. It's not just sharing your opinions, but also listening to what others have to say.
That's probably what most people struggle with, is listening to other people's opinions. You mentioned how it's kind of scary if you go in front of an audience of people who disagree with you. Do you think that's another reason why teens are kind of away from public speaking?
Definitely. I think that we're so used to validation in our lives and surrounding ourselves with this.
Speech and debate will in fact do that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you don't agree with me, like, then that's a bad thing. And also, if you do agree with me, I'm going to turn to you more. Like, if I like mint chocolate chip ice cream and I preach that because it's my favorite or whatever, and you love it and you agree with me, but Harini is like, well, I actually think that's like the worst flavor ever. A lot of people tend to be like, so what about that ice cream, and just completely block out this other view. And so I think that it's really important to hear these other views and to not be scared of them, because they are a good thing and you can learn from them. It's just a matter of like being respectful, really.
I like how you put that with your metaphor about mint chocolate chip ice cream. Mint chocolate chip is one of the best ice creams, just saying there.
I've been a hater of mint chocolate chips since day one.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to just Charlie now. See, that's a beautiful example of what we're talking about. Another big thing that I've heard about public speaking is that kids are doing it less in classrooms. How in your classrooms have you seen that?
I think to a certain extent, it's this idea of participating in class and like saying the right answer is uncool. It feels like you're playing into the idea of being a goody two-shoes or the teacher's pet. So people are hesitant to speak up in class and participate because they feel like their peers are going to think that they're being uncool.
Yeah, and my sister yesterday was talking about being a teacher's pet, and she was like, well, Mr. Gerard, he always has these questions, and I always know the answer, but I never want to say anything because I'm the only person that speaks. And so I feel like there's definitely just the fear of judgment that we talked about earlier that still persists in the classroom, but it's really up to the teachers and up to the students to try to implement things where it can be more normalized and it's not seen as this stigma.
I do like the fact that you guys both use the word cool, because we promote school is cool here. Definitely. You also both mentioned how like classrooms and they can help. Do you think that people should go to like after school programs or even school issued programs about public speaking?
Yeah, and I know we're all in one. Speech or debate, it's definitely like those specific programs that do try to help with it are really important and should be utilized more. I mean, there's like 8 people in our speech class right now, and we're all just like trying to get people more into public speaking, and it's something that I feel like should be seen in a more positive light because it can definitely benefit people.
Yeah, I think different people can develop their public speaking skills through different methods. For some people, that looks like becoming really involved in a formal program. For some people, that looks like getting really involved in theater. It looks different for a lot of people, but what's most important is finding a community of really supportive people who will help you throughout the process of improving your public speaking skills.
I do have a good question for both of you. What was a tip that you got from someone or that you found along the way that helped you with public speaking?
I think that instead of being hesitant toward things, that you should just go for it. And that's very scary for some people, but really, it's just that very first step that's the most terrifying thing about it. As soon as you get into it, whether it goes good or bad, you start like getting a sense of it, and it's really beneficial for you to just go straight into it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people say to pretend like the audience just doesn't exist, but I've found that that really doesn't help because it's hard to ignore people when they're just right there. But I feel like instead of viewing the audience as people who are out there to get you, I think you should see them more as people who are there to support you. Imagine like your closest friends and your family are there to support you.
So you mentioned closest friends and family. Do you find it easier to speak with family, or do you think it would be easier to speak with like random people?
I think definitely random people, personally. I don't have to see them again. You know, I might catch them out in like Walmart or Target or something like that, but I still don't have to speak with them. But I really do think, even though I'm like scared to like perform or talk in front of them, that their support regardless goes a long way, and it's something that people still should utilize. And like public speaking is seen very highly in my family, and so it's definitely something that should still be talked about, and you should still talk about it with your friends and family regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. I prefer like friends and family. I feel like random people are cool too.
We love talking to randos here.
But still, I feel like for me, the support from my friends and family is really motivating. But it's different for everyone, like what they feel most comfortable with and who they feel more comfortable voicing their opinions around. For some people, if they grew up in a household where their opinion was always valued, they're more comfortable with sharing those views with a larger group of people. But on the other hand, if you feel like in your family your opinions weren't always respected, you would be more hesitant to share your perspectives with a lot of people.
Do you have a question? Speaking on the people who you're most comfortable with, are you more comfortable talking with friends or adults? I know that Charlie said multiple times that she does not like talking about performing or even talking to friends that she has to see every single day.
Yeah, I feel more comfortable with adults, but that might also be just the way I grew up. I'm an only child, so I've spent a lot of my early childhood and adolescence around more adults than my peers. So I think that might be why I'm more comfortable talking about things more formally with adults rather than like discussing a topic like casually with friends.
You mentioned the word formally. So what is your definition of public speaking? A lot of people think it's this very formal thing that people do at like City Hall or with politics, that you got to stand with a microphone and make the whole audience, like you. What is your definition of public speaking?
I think that there's so many different kinds of public speaking. I mean, there's persuasion, there's informational stuff, there's even just like a comedy show. Like you're still publicly speaking to people, and even that can be beneficial. Even though you're not like necessarily talking about anything important, that bonding and connection that you still get with people, and you're still having a good time, that can benefit you in so many ways. And so it really just depends on how you want to perceive it, really.
Yeah, there's so many different aspects of public speaking as well. It's definitely a lot more than just the formal view of public speaking that we see. It can look like discussions and conversations with people similar to this one. It doesn't have to be just a one-person thing. It can be a two-way street, a more dialogue.
That's what I love about public speaking, is that it can be fluid. I mean, even NSDA standards, they call this public speaking. And even like a conversation with 5 or more adults that's just like looking at you is considered public speaking. Do you think that the formality of public speaking is what scares teens off?
I think it's a factor of it for sure, because a lot of people feel like they don't know enough. They don't know enough like information, but they also don't know enough about it because they're too scared of not being formal enough and all of this stuff. But I think like I just said stuff. Like it doesn't have to be extremely formal, and it can be, like we've said, conversational just like this. If I were even to just talk to a camera, no one technically looking at me, that still counts, and there's still small steps that can help people get over that fear.
Yeah, I think it's also the fact that smaller steps are more important in the process of getting better at public speaking. It's not like one day you're just going to wake up and it's going to come naturally to you. Like it's little things like maybe slowly like increasing the number of people that you're presenting your opinions to, like depending on the topics that you're most comfortable with, like speaking out on issues that you're really familiar with, but then also researching more about things that you might not know as much about.
So Charlie, you mentioned talking to the camera. Hello, camera. That a lot of people don't think social media is public speaking. Do you think that social media could be a form of public speaking?
I think it definitely can be, as long as you utilize it in that way. I mean, people can just post random things about their life, like, hey, I'm at the beach right now, you know, I look cute or whatever. But you can also like have a conversation. You can talk about important issues, and it can definitely be that first step for some people, because talking in front of a crowd can seem scary. But if you're just talking to your phone, you can try as many times as you need to. If you mess up, you can redo it. And it's something that a lot of people don't really realize that they could use.
Ernie, what is your opinion on public speaking? Do you think that it could be utilized as like a tool, or do you think it's like a weapon,
Yeah, I think one aspect of social media is the fact that you can sort of get locked in these echo chambers of opinions. Like if you're surrounded by people who all believe that mint chocolate chip is the best ice cream,
It is the best.
like you're not going to learn more about other perspectives, and your view of the world is going to be a lot more limited. But if you like interacted with people who say liked vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream, like you're going to learn more about these other viewpoints, and maybe that might influence your perspective as well.
Mint chocolate chip is the best.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess vanilla, chocolate, they're okay. You know, they're all right.
Do you think that one of the biggest things about public speaking is just voicing your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's a huge tool that can be used to advocate for positive change in your community and on a larger scale. I think it's a great way to share all of these passions that we have about the world, our hopes for our future, and turn that into actionable change.
Yeah, and I think it can be the most random opinions that you have. Like we've been talking about ice cream this whole time, but it could be your view on a serious issue going on, and it could be on politics, and there's this huge scale of things. But what's most important is that the fact that public speaking is literally just voicing your opinion makes it so accessible for teens more specifically, because you don't have to know all this stuff. You can have these educational conversations and be educated just through speaking to people.
So I have a little bit of a silly question for you. What's your worst experience that you've had with public speaking?
For a memorized speech, my first year of speech and debate, it was, I don't even remember what it was about. I think it was like a speech about ourselves, like introducing us to the class. And it was supposed to be like 5 minutes. And I forgot what I was supposed to say after the third minute. And I just started yapping about stuff. And I started making up the most random things about myself. And it was so funny. It was so embarrassing at that point. But looking back on that experience, I think it's a normal thing to mess up sometimes. We're not always going to be perfect, but we can learn from our mistakes.
Yeah, and this isn't really my experience. I'm kind of stealing it right now. But one time, this girl, she was supposed to be giving a speech on like something like pollution and environmental wise, and she just completely forgot what she was supposed to say, like in the middle of like a round or something like that. So she talked about Gandhi for about like 8 minutes the entire time, and she kind of like turned a really bad situation into a good one. And I think that it's something that's like more memorable, because even if something's bad, even if you have a bad experience in public speaking, you just get up and try again, and eventually it gets better.
I think the beauty of having bad experiences is that you can learn from them. I mean, unless you choose not to learn from them. Do you think that bad experiences and like failing at public speaking helped you?
Yeah, I think there's very few people I know that have never messed up at some point in speech and debate. I feel like it's just a common canon event that we all have to go through. But it also helps with being more adaptable and preparing for situations that you didn't expect, because things won't always go your way in your career, in your personal life, and even in public speaking. And it's important to be resilient and persevere through things that might not always work out.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I think that through failure, you can see what you're good at, what you need to improve on, and just all of these different things, all of these skills that through failure, you slowly improve. And although it can seem bad to just fail and fail again, those failures should be seen as more of learning than mistakes or failures. And just to making sure that you don't just quit when something happens. Instead, you take from that experience and you learn from it.
I like how you put that, the learning from new experiences. Is there anything that you guys are doing currently that would be classified as public speaking?
I'm involved with a lot of different like research endeavors related to the opioid crisis in Oklahoma, and I feel like public speaking has really helped me improve the way that I present about this topic to people who are really familiar with the issue, like they're working in the field of addiction psychiatry, to talking about my research to people who have no idea about anything I'm talking about. And I think public speaking has really helped me adapt the way I talk about different topics to different audiences as well.
Yeah, and through public speaking, I've learned how to teach a lot better, because it's just a lot of interaction that you need to have. Like, I'm trying to be a preschool teacher, so I interact with these kids from infants to like 5 years old right now. And just talking to them, it helps their like mind develop so much. And I think that especially as a kid, just throughout life, having these conversations with them, even if they're too scared to talk to you at some point, like, it still benefits them. It still helps the mind develop and all of these things.
So Charlie, you mentioned that you want to be a preschool teacher, and talking to these kids really young is very important. Do you think how you grew up played a part into how good you are today?
Yeah, and I said earlier, I have five sisters, and I have a twin included in that. And
Crazy.
So, right, and it's a lot in my household, and so everyone's talking all the time, and it's very loud. And so I definitely think different backgrounds can help you, because Harini's an only child. I have all of these siblings, and I think that these different experiences can help us learn from each other and help us grow within that.
So I have a random question. If you could say something to yourself when you were first starting out public speaking, what would you say?
It gets better and it gets more fun.
Gets better.
It gets better.
Hold on tight. There's this kid in my speech and debate class, and he had a really rough time like his first month or two. And so my coach would just come up to him, be like, hang in there, it's gonna get better. And then slowly, he did start getting better because he listened and he learned from everything that happened.
So, speaking of coaches and adults in general, a lot of teens are afraid of talking with adults. Have you found like any spaces or know of any spaces that are kind of like teen oriented?
I think school clubs are definitely the most teen-oriented spaces that I can think of. It's a great place to find people who are interested in some of the same topics like you are. There's a huge variety of different school organizations at my school, and it's a great way to meet other people and have these important conversations.
Yeah, I think school clubs is definitely a huge resource for people. I mean, we're in Teen Talk right now too. It's something run by teens for teens, but I think that there's also something to say as just friend groups. There's probably only teens in your friend group, and you guys have a lot
Hopefully.
and you guys have a lot of things in common. And so I think through your friends, you can inform people and get them into public speaking, and that can be really beneficial for them.
Do you think that starting off with talking just with your friends and then moving on to adults would help a lot of teens?
I think it could in some ways, just because they're more comfortable with their friends. So,
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Like talking about topics that you might not know a lot about, but with a comfortable audience that will support you is a lot less nerve-wracking than a topic that you're unfamiliar with an audience that you don't know as well.
So a lot of the times we're terrified of differentiating opinions. I mean, you mentioned the ice cream earlier, and I'm gonna get a little bit serious on it. Do you think that a lot of teens are scared of having different opinions than like peers or adults or like even random people on the street? Do you think that like having a different opinion is something to be scared about, and like should people be scared about it?
I think having a different opinion is something to be proud of, because it's through your experiences and your walk through life why you have these opinions. Even if some people may view it as a bad opinion, it's still your opinion, and that's what matters. It's your individualized self that's willing to come out and share these things.
Yeah, I think we naturally gravitate towards people who have similar opinions as us, but it's really important to understand and empathize with people whose worldviews may be completely different than yours.
I like how you said there's no bad opinions. This is completely true. I mean, no opinions you would say here today, even if it's completely wrong, like mint chocolate chip ice cream is bad. But there's like truly no bad opinions. There's a way to inform people on the reason why you do this. That's why a lot of people join debate. Do you think that people doing debate would help?
I think it's definitely helped me in a way. And so just doing these acts of public speaking, whether it's debate, whether it's clubs, whether it's literally just talking to anyone, it can definitely help just through experience.
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
We talk about a lot of debate. Was there a reason why you guys chose to join speech and debate?
Well, I actually had a friend, forever grateful for him. He was like, hey, I just joined this club and I have like no friends in it. Can you come join? And I was like, yeah, for sure. And I joined. Next week, he leaves. But I stay in it because, I tried to make friends in there. And just through that, I've kind of stayed with it and found that it was just something that I really enjoyed doing.
Yeah, I think for me as well, it was the friends aspect of speech and debate, because I didn't love public speaking when I first started. So it was like, okay, my friends are all doing it, so I should try because it might be fun.
That is true. I've made a lot of friends over the course of my speech and debate career. A lot of the time, kids will join because they have, again, the divergent speaking or speech impediments or anything like that. Have you seen kids with speech impediments or anything like divergent to speaking be more comfortable in those aspects? Like, I know speech and debate is a little scary because you're being judged on how you speak. But like how I mentioned earlier with the novices, do you think that maybe the competition is what helps?
I honestly think that the competition is a part that scares people. But I think that the fact that you have coaches, you have teammates, you have all these people to push you through it and help you with it, that's what gets them into it. And that's why I think it's so important that teens have these conversations. They do this public speaking because through that you can gain other people to do it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. The competitive aspect of speech and debate is one thing that scares some people, but it can also be a motivating factor for some people to join. Some people are naturally really competitive and they love to win, and that the idea of speech and debate being a more competitive thing can sort of influence them to maybe try public speaking and improve their skills.
So a lot of the times people have trouble with their voices and if their voices are being heard or not. I mean, in a classroom, you're kind of talking about the same thing as your peers are. But do you think that, like politically, because even though we're not adults, we're like mini adults basically, we just don't have the cool things that adults do. Do you think that their voices are as important as adults, or are they even more important?
I think that they're definitely also important because we have a lot of a different view than adults. Adults, they go through a whole different generation and they're in this whole different lifetime than us. So the fact that they can share their experiences and then we can share ours in this current world, it's really important just so that we can make sure that the community that we create adapts to both teens and adults.
Yeah, I think our teenage years are definitely a lot different than our parents and like other generations before us. But that also means that we have a different view of like what we want in our future and what we hope to achieve.
So we said a lot of stuff today. I mean, we said school is cool, ice cream, and so many other things that are actually important, not the things I just named. What do you think was the most important thing about our discussion today?
I think the fact that no matter your walk of life, no matter your background, what school you go to, what state, what even country that you live in, it's important for you to implement public speaking and also not to be scared of it because it's something that anyone can do no matter what. I mean, Harini, English was her second language, and over the summer, she ended up being top 70 in the nation in the debate that she did. So I think that really goes to show that it doesn't matter where you're from or where you come from, that it's something as long as you take a step and try it, that you can benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think couldn't have done it without you, Charlie.
The little highlight.
But I think it's something really important that we understand that there's so many different perspectives out there, but we can all empathize with the idea that we all have opinions that matter, even if they don't always align.
I love that little ending line about the fact that our opinions matter even if they don't align. So I asked a bunch of questions today, and I was wondering if there was anything that I didn't touch on that you would like to add.
What was your personal experience with public speaking, Alex?
Public speaking was an interesting endeavor for me. At a very young age, I was diagnosed with a stutter and a lisp. And so I kind of like diverged from public speaking a lot. I mean, I did not raise my hand a lot. I mean, at one point I would communicate with the teacher by writing on my paper the questions and she would reply back to me because I was terrified of it. Didn't do good at it. I was a part of like stagehand, like when I did theater for a while. But speech and debate really opened me up. I started it in 8th grade. First time I made a kid cry with LD. And especially over this last year, like really getting into the competition, it helped me a lot. I got critiques on how I speak. A lot of them were my stutter, which did not help a lot. But I do think that my path and my history of public speaking is something a lot of people can relate to. I mean, a lot of, I think, 30% of the country struggles with speech impediments, even if it's mild, that just keep going through it and stop telling people to get over it, because it's honestly kind of a cool thing. I mean, there's this whole comedian that does his stutter as like the whole joke of his thing. And I mention that a lot of the times with my stutter. But I think that public speaking is probably the most important aspect of my life. And I think that's it for today. I think that we discussed all we needed to discuss, and that we kind of aligned on that public speaking is important. So thank you guys, and that's a wrap.